Epidemic passport of Munich in 1739. Hello, curious people. In a world full of news about coronavirus, today we present you the subject: Epidemic passport of Munich in 1739. Leprosy, plague and cholera certificate from 1739. Epidemic passport confirms Munich's fresh air. A document from 1739 confirms that there is no danger of a plague in Munich. Illnesses rage again and again in the city. Munich people have been repeatedly infected with contagious, deadly diseases. In order to minimize infection rates, city officials used similar protective measures than as they do today. Hygiene rules, domestic isolation and travel certificates were already widespread in the early modern period. An epidemic passport from the 18th century shows what precautions merchants had to take so that they were even allowed to cross national borders. The reader of a German newspaper found earlier this year, when coronavirus was still a long way off, she writes such a document in an antique shop in Berlin. The document, in which Munich's mayor confirmed the fresh air of the city, was issued in 1739 to the merchant Johann Maurer. He had apparently maintained trade relations via Bolzano to Verona. The document certifies that there is no risk of plague or contagious disease in the capital and residents. A document of this kind is not unusual. Since the Middle Ages, the plague has been a regular guest in the city, with devastating consequences for the population. In 1632 alone, after the Swedish occupation during the 30 Years' War, more than a third of the population died from the effects of the plague. A memorial from this period still stands on Marienplatz. Elector Maximilian I had the Mary Column built there in 1638. At the base of the column, the four angel heroes fight against the plagues of mankind in the form of animal figures: the lion, representing war, the dragon representing hunger, the snake representing disbelief, and the basilisk representing the plague. While the citizens of the city can protect themselves against infection by the controls outside the city wall, it hits the suburbs all the more violently. Due to its proximity to the Salt Road and its location on the banks of the Isar, Hildhausen is an important military strategic point. Opposing troops regularly loot the village, burn down houses and bring in diseases. But not only soldiers, pilgrims and merchants also bring epidemics home. In the so-called institutions for Sondersiege outside the city walls, terminally ill people were accommodated. While there were primarily lepers in the 13th century, cancer and syphilis patients also lived in the leprosy house on Gasteigberg. In the 18th century, as Munich Mayor Franz Karl von Barth wrote in a letter in 1773. A surviving testimony from this period is the chapel of St. Nicholas ad Leprosos. Quarantine for a commercial traveler or closed markets are not uncommon until the 20th century, by the way. There is also a legend about the Schaflertans that says the dance was performed for the first time in order to lure people back to Munich streets after a plague epidemic and to get public life going again. The founding myth is relatively unlikely to be true. For 1517, at least, no major wave of illness is documented. Written references to the first Schaflertans are much later, namely from 1702. Interesting artifacts have been preserved from the archives of the churches from the end of the 17th century. The archives of the Archdiocese of Munich and Freising examined them and found aids for pastoral care. In order to avoid contagion, clergymen in the Tegernsee monastery used about a spoonful of wafers during the Mass, with the help of a joint that could be unfolded to a length of 56 centimeters, so that the sick could celebrate the Eucharist but keep their distance. It is difficult to imagine why the merchant Maurer tried to certify Munich's freedom from epidemics in March 1739. The traders are probably still under the influence of 1720. Back then, merchants had inspectors in Marseille because they wanted to sell their goods there. The city on the Mediterranean is an important hub for goods from the Orient. Ships from distant countries actually have to be quarantined for a few weeks before their personnel can go ashore. The health authority checks certificates and data. In the case of a Levante ship, the captain lies about the condition of a sick sailor and thus introduces the plague. It rages for 2 years, 100,000 people fall victim to it. A corresponding act is contained in the Munich State Archives, indicating that the outbreak in France was known in Bavaria. In 1721, Hofmark Fraunhofer, today in the district of Etching, issued a mandate to stop trading with Marseille because of the plague that was rampant there. In the end, I would like to thank you for watching us, and I would like to invite you to subscribe and like our channel.